What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be looking at the Fara 83 and why it's the meta weapon. Obviously it's just had a reduction to its recoil and it's also had a reduction to its damage profiles. But that being said, guys, is it still meta and why is everyone still using it even though it's technically been nerfed? Check it out, guys. We're going to be breaking it down and looking into it and reasons as to why this would be the meta weapon to use. We're also on this channel, guys, going to be covering a lot of the other weapons that have been updated and adjusted because let's be honest, they updated like 40 odd weapons and we're going to cover the main ones. So that being said, guys, let's jump straight into the build that we're going to be using in today's video. It's the Grew Suppressor, the Liberator. You could always swap out the Liberator for the Spetsnaz barrel, but I personally just prefer it for the long range aspect, having the, you know, the recoil and the recoil control. On top of that, it actually feels like there's less recoil on the Liberator for some reason. I'm not too sure why. Maybe it's just a feeling effect and the other one might actually have more, like less recoil. But for me, this one feels like it has less recoil as well as, you know, better bullet velocity. We then have the 3x scope. Because of the 4x scope on this one, it just bounces a bit too much, whereas this is very controllable. And if you are a good player, you can still control the recoil even after the update with this weapon. We then also have the Spetsnaz grip barrel. It's not grip barrel, is it? Spetsnaz grip under barrel. And then the 60 round mag. Now, you don't want to be using the fast round mag because it just isn't that good. The ADS speed is dramatically lowered, so it takes longer to aim down sight. But the reload speed is it's like milliseconds. There's no real difference in, you know, in the two. So you might as well just use the standard 60 round mag. But this is the build we're going to be using, guys. Now let's see how it performs. So, guys, Future Scopes is back here. We're going to be breaking down the Fara 83 and what I personally believe of how the weapon performs and whether or not it's still currently the meta weapon. So, for me, guys, I'd say that the meta is obviously what most people are using, and this can technically be classed as the meta weapon. But for me, personally, it's just not strong enough. You know, I don't see this weapon really performing to the best that you could be using. You know, the C58 is better. We haven't yet tested the Krieg. I know that's been updated as well. But for me personally, this isn't going to be my personal choice when it comes to meta weapons. That will be the C58. But why people still think this is the meta weapon is purely on the basis it has low recoil, fast fire rate, and obviously it does a bit of damage. So it kind of sounds like, you know, the M13 of Modern Warfare. This is what it reminds me of, if I'm honest with you. That being said, the M13 has also been updated recently, so we're definitely going to be doing a video on that in the next couple of days. So make sure you have the notifications on to see when we release that. Unfortunately, I had to throw the chopper here because I couldn't get the ping off to tell Token where the guy was. So, you know, Token got completely out of guard, and if I hadn't thrown the chopper, there's a good chance he probably would have died there. Obviously, I got a live ping from Token of the guy on top. And that's how I managed to turn around and shoot him. Otherwise, honestly, we probably would have died to that guy on the containers. Moving through, guys, as you see here, this gun, you know, even though it's had a nerf to its recoil, if you're a decent player, even an above average player, just above average player, there's no recoil to this weapon. You know, it doesn't really move. My personal opinion, it might need to have, you know, a little recoil added to it because, as you can see here, guys, especially when you're mounted, this thing doesn't move at all. No recoil whatsoever. I'm able to laser these kids as long as I can, you know, aim on them. They're gonna die. Moving forward, as you see here, the damage. So we've covered the recoil, the damage. They melted, you know. It's definitely a very good weapon. I'm not gonna argue with that at all. But for me, when I'm using an assault rifle, I want an assault rifle that's good at long range as well. Now, this weapon is designed to be a long range gun, you know, and that's why they've added a bit recoil, but they've also extended its damage range and stuff like that. Me personally, I find that the weapon is very good in close to medium. You know, even at the ranges you see in this following clip right here, you know, 60, 70, 80 meters away, reaching onto the 100 meters at the far back of these garages, you know, it's still decent at these ranges. But for me personally, I want to be able to use an assault rifle at 200 meters, you know. And for me, that's what the C58 is. It's, you know, it's much more stronger when using it for the long range. And me personally, I prefer using it at a long range.
Because we just got 2 teams.
Right here, you can see, obviously, that almost all the floor loot is the Fara. It's the main weapon that everyone's using at the moment. And I can't really say too much about it. It's definitely... You know, it's definitely the best assault rifle for the average. And a lot of people in my stream, shout out to Carl Lasagna, Motempo, Brassosaurus Rex, you know, all of those are explaining to me how the reason this is the meta weapon is the same reason the Kilo was the meta, even though the AMAX was a better gun. And it's purely on the basis that more people... the more average person is able to use it. And to somewhat, I do agree with them. You know, the AMAX was obviously a stronger weapon, but it had a lot of recoil. Whereas the reason I don't agree with them is purely on the basis that the C58 is better. It has less recoil and more damage than the AMAX ever was. You know, it's... The C58 is better than the AMAX was when it was in its prime. For me, the AMAX is a good weapon, but it had a lot of recoil for the damage it done. Whereas the C58 does more damage and less recoil. So therefore, it's arguably, yeah, that's the word, arguably so much better than what the AMAX was. So therefore, to me, if you're using a gun like... you know, the Kilo at the time, even though the Kilo now is completely nerfed, this gun, I'd say, is a little bit better than the Kilo, maybe, but it not at the same time, if that makes sense, you know? It's a mixture of both. And to me, personally, I would say the C58 will, in the right hands, will dominate any Fara, you know, if it's used by the... Say you got 2 pro players and the exact identity and exact replica... They would both be, you know, shooting each other. I reckon the C58 would outgun the Fara any day. So, just talking about tactics here. I don't know if you noticed there, guys. I faked the revive so that the audio cue would come off for the guy pushing me. And then I'm able to obviously jump out and surprise him because he's probably thinking I'm still in there reviving. Now, the other thing as well... is I put an airstrike down in between me and the other guy that was shooting so that we could have enough time to rotate. Obviously, I don't want to be pushed while I'm actually reviving, so the best thing to do is to prevent that push-up in between the 2 people. And therefore, he wouldn't have been given the notification of the airstrike coming in because I didn't put it close to him. But at the same time, you know, he would have ended up running into it if he was to push me. Turns out the guy completely ran away. We didn't even see him, you know, at all. I didn't see him cross. We only had about a 10-second difference, but the moment he shot at me, he must have instantly ran away. So we weren't actually aware of that at the time. So we were still covering our back, making sure that there was no one available. I thought someone was next to this little barrier, but it wasn't. It was just a bit of grass. Turns out the right side was completely clear. So we had a nice little rotation to make. Luckily for us, if you notice up the top left in the minimap, the rotation actually pulls towards us, kind of. You know, it's in between us and the team up on top of the hill. But for us in general, guys, obviously the rotation is close enough to us to be the best possible rotation we could get. The only other better way it would have been is for it to come onto the actual bridge. And then it would have made a situation maybe a bit harder because the fact that, you know, there could be people under the bridge, on top of the bridge, and then it comes into a lot difficult more area to fight in. Now, we wanted to both rotate uphill here. Obviously, sticking together and working as a team is always preferred. And the higher ground is definitely preferred as well. But in this situation, you know, we managed to take out one guy. The other team actually killed someone else. So now it's simply a 2v1v1. Now, in most gunfights, a 1v1 isn't, you know... there's a good chance that we could win the 1v1s. Token sees someone uphill. He calls it out. I end up looking uphill and helping him. We both shoot at this guy together. Token manages to grab that kill. And then moving forward, I see the second guy. Token sees him as well. We both shoot it. Team shooting together. He manages to get both kills. which makes him just about catch up. And if you have a look at our damage and kills, we're both using the Fara. And there it is, guys. Honestly, I really did enjoy using this weapon. We both used the Fara there, and we both basically got the exact same damage. Now, this weapon is a genuinely really good weapon, but for me personally, I would advise if you are above average and you can control recoil, I would definitely try using maybe the C58. It's definitely a better weapon, even though that has also had, obviously, reduction to, an increase, not reduction, an increase to its recoil, and obviously more, its damage. I think the headshot damage had been, lowered a little bit. But if you are able to control that recoil, definitely test that weapon out. It's, in my opinion, the better weapon to be using. But for the average person, this is indeed the meta weapon to be using. And we're going to test out the Krieg for you guys to see if maybe that's slightly different or not. But I really enjoyed, obviously, using this gun in today's video for you. If you want to see more and you want to return, remember to have that notification bell on, guys, and hit that subscribe button. I love each and every one of you, and I'll see you all in the next video.